It's a Kikuyu strip of the
Good evening. Thank you so much for joining us on This Is the Day. My name is Medrin Nyambura. So being a Thursday, we look at different aspects of our life, of our lifestyle. And today we look at reading and writing. So I have a question. What's the last book you read? And I don't mean a magazine, a book, physically, book. What's the last thing you read? Think about that, and you can text me on 22316 0786 316 316, and you can talk about that. But today we talk about reading, writing, and making a career out of it all, and have two amazing ladies. Hi, ladies. I mentioned I love both your hair, right? Like your hair looks nice. Modoni looks amazing at the corner. So that's Modoni Garland, founder of Story Moja, published author Karemi. You have a tongue twister. Karemi Gatimi. There you go. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
You've been here before,
Yes,
so
I
make
have.
sure you make Modoni feel at home.
She is at home.
Thank you so much for coming. So maybe I'll ask with you, Karemi. Do Kenyans read? Do we read?
We have Kenyans who read, and we do have Kenyans who read newspapers and maybe textbooks or something, but not read for the love of reading. You know,
Okay.
like a literary book, like a novel. Yeah, so we have the Kenyans who read are voracious readers. Those who don't read, they just have never read a book other than the textbook after high school. So
Yes.
yeah,
Okay.
I think it's too.
And that's years upon years
That's
of not
years
reading.
upon years. So there's a minority that read, and they read a lot.
Okay.
Yes.
I understand there are people who can't get sound. Give us a minute to fix that, and then we'll be right back. We're live on Family TV, also live on Family Radio. And if you hadn't started with us, we are talking about reading, writing, and how to make a career out of it. Just to make sure everybody gets it, this is Karemi Gatimi. Let me tell you, your mom was brilliant to give you that name. That way no one gets it wrong. And Modoni Garland, who is the founder of Story Moja. Thank you, ladies, again. So I asked you whether we read in Kenya, and you said we might be a few, but then we read a lot.
Yes.
I am struggling with that 52 books challenge. It's too much
There
pressure.
are those who read like triple of that.
Yeah.
Yes, there are Kenyans who read even 2-3 books in a week. Yes.
And they still do other things.
Yes, they still do other things.
Okay.
When you spend your time on phone or
Yeah.
I don't know what people do a lot on TV or something. There are Kenyans who read.
Okay.
They are waiting. They're in a matatu. They are reading. They are maybe waiting for an appointment. They have a book with them. They read. So the minority that do read, they read a lot and
Okay.
widely. Yes.
And I think that
Modoni?
what's growing is the reading culture is growing, and that's really exciting. So I have an anecdote.
Yes.
So going back when Chimamanda Adichie had just published Purple Hibiscus, she came to Kenya, and in those days, and it was maybe about 8 to 10 years ago, and in those days, trying to get an audience to come and listen to her was such hard work. Literally, we were on
Wow.
the phone.
Yes.
That time I was part of sort of the Kwani family. And we were on the phone calling, look, if you're my relative and you love me, just come.
Are you
Never come to
serious?
eat in my house again. If
Yeah.
I'll never cook for you unless you come. You know, you're going to
Yeah.
embarrass us with the hottest young writer coming out of Nigeria. And we barely got 40 people in a room.
Wow.
The next time she came
Yes.
to launch Americana, you couldn't even get in. There must have been 1,000 people. I had to use
Can you
elbows.
believe that?
Yeah,
To
the elbow
actually
power
get-
to actually get into the room.
Okay.
And people were buying her books like a stack, for her to sign and all that.
Yes.
Okay, and she launched it with, you remember Dust was launched at the same
Yes.
time, Yvonne Award's book, etc. So there definitely is something that's changing. The dynamic of reading is changing.
Okay.
When we started Story Moja, we used to do a lot of what we used to call Story Mania. And we go
Yes.
to different estates around Nairobi. We go to Buruburu Social Hall. We go to Joseph Kangeve. We go to all these different places. We were lucky if we got an audience of maybe 6 people to discuss a book. an audience,
Wow.
you know,
Oh,
as
yeah.
in, you know, readers or
Yes.
whatever, or even just interested, curious people wanting to know about books, etc. And those days you had to explain, what is a book club? How does it work? Nini? Now that's going back 10 years. Nowadays there's so many book clubs.
Online, on Facebook.
Online, there's
Yeah.
obviously Goodreads.
My estate, we have a book club.
Yeah. So definitely there's something really hot happening in, you know, the book temperature has gone up.
Okay, that's very encouraging. We'll be
Yeah.
talking about why that is important. Let me tell you, when you hear someone who says they haven't read in 12 years, what do you think? I think we should do this in Kenya as well, just to see 12 years.
We should.
Like even the cover, the back of any product you buy. What do you think when you hear that? That millennials, apparently it's research that's showing that 1 in 4 millennials have not read a book in like a decade.
I think it's sad
Yeah.
because about stories of a book that is turned into a movie. But I love to read a book before I watch the movie.
Yes.
You know, so they miss a lot. I think it's sad. They miss a lot on the language, the creative art that goes into writing a book, the description. You know, it's sad.
I think
Right?
it's more than that. I think it is foolishness. It is
Mothandi did not
ignorance.
come to play.
It is. It is just so wrong because when you think what is a book, whether it's fiction or non-fiction, it is the wisdom of a people.
Yes.
It is the life experiences that people have gone through that they capture, whether fictionally or otherwise. Yeah. So it basically means you're only satisfied with what either you experience yourself or what you hear about in your immediate environment.
Okay.
And even then, it's told to you in such a truncated manner because honestly, you don't spend enough time with people to really begin to reflect on the issues they talk to you about.
That's true.
Whereas a book gives you that space to think, to question, to interrogate, to sort of, you know, get insights about. And I think that people misjudge books in that they think books are strictly for entertainment. You know, to me, movies are for entertainment.
Okay.
And even then, people will see value in watching movies just for entertainment. With books, because there's so much time that allows you to think through what it is that they're saying, to read between the lines, to understand not just the author's intent, but how it echoes in your life, how it resonates in your life. I think you grow so much if you read.
Okay.
And it shapes society because if you're surrounded by other people who read, statistics show us that societies that read more tend to get more developed.
Okay, that makes a lot of sense because somebody was talking about, you know, the level of literacy in this country. Sometimes we just need a book. You don't even need to, if education is very difficult to access, grab a book. So let me ask you, how early should you teach your children how to read?
I think you start reading to them as early as possible. If I give my example, I love reading to date. My mother would read, and I admire that. She read to us, the first book she read to us was Oliver Twist. We were so young, my brother and I.
Yeah.
And she would read a paragraph in English, then now tell the story in Kimeru, our mother tongue.
Wow.
And she read that book she read to us like every other time. You know, it was amazing. So by the time I joined like class 1, I just wanted to know how to read because I needed to read that book.
Okay.
And I still remember the story, the way she told it. Even when I read the book now later, it's not the same as when she read it to me. You know,
Okay.
so it should start as early as when you read to the child, and it starts with the parents. Sadly, when she was reading these stories and we were enjoying, we'd go to school. I don't remember ever a book that we read in school other than the textbook and the Bar Baby Bob. There was no storybook that was read that made me love reading and wanting to know what's in that book.
Okay.
So it starts with the parents as early as possible.
In
Give us
fact,
the-
I think
sorry.
it should start when
Yes.
the baby's in the womb. I think
I
that's when
had
you
that,
should start
yeah.
reading to your child.
Okay.
And when you think, you know, the language of instruction in Kenya is English.
Yes.
How many families speak English at home? You're talking about maybe 2, maybe 5%,
Probably in Nairobi or the
95%,
cities.
which means that 95% only really practice the language in which they must pass the exams. They only practice it in the classroom.
Yes.
And in the classroom, what they read is dictionary definitions. So you tend to read just the words that you will see in front of you. So if it's a textbook and it says, this is a tree, that is what you learn.
Yes.
You won't find, the nuanced language that allows you to have complete command, complete facility with the language.
Yeah.
So what happens is a lot of our children are not passing exams, not because they are not clever, but because they don't understand the language well enough to understand the question.
Okay.
So if I take a book, and I've done this many times, and I challenge the listeners and everyone else out there, go into the ordinary primary school. I'm talking either government or low-cost private schools.
Okay.
Go in there into a standard 7 classroom. Take Karemi's book, Tithinda and the Wind Game, which is really designed for standard 2, 3. Take it into a standard 7 classroom. Ask every child, just read one paragraph. You are going to be shocked. Standard 7 children who are there trying to read Desikiribe, describe, like that.
Yeah.
It is not their fault.
Okay.
They didn't read enough when they were young. And the best way to learn language is through storybooks. It's not through textbooks, it's through storybooks.
Okay. What do you make of people who will say, I don't have the time to read to my children? You have the help, who probably is not even coherent in the language. So what do you make of that? What do they do?
I would love to use Bodhoni's word foolish, but it's ignorant. It's like setting up your child to fail in a lot of levels. Like she said about comprehension. When you don't read when my mother read to us, and even my brother reads probably way more than I read.
Okay.
When she read, we found we were topping in class, not because we had so much interaction with the textbooks, but just the comprehension.
What she
of
talked
it.
about.
Yeah,
yes.
the interest, the understand. When we go and learn the ABCD and the Bababu that we were learning, then I take the Oliver Twist book because I really wanted to be able to read like she was doing it.
Okay.
I would take it and I would find the A that I saw in my class. And
okay.
So there is a lot of ignorance and folly when you don't create time to read for your child, or for your children, or with your children.
Okay.
But I think there are also other steps that, there are some things, I understand. Sometimes parents, you've got a full-time job, you're working in town, maybe you live in Gong or you live wherever, and the hours that it takes you just to go through traffic, you leave work at 5, by the time you get home, the children barely time to do a bit of homework and eat food, and it's time to go to bed. There are some things you could do. Like, for instance, you could get audiobooks.
Exactly.
And get the children to listen to audiobooks. Actually set it up in such a way that you say between 8 and 9 o'clock every night, or if it's a young child, you don't want to do more than half an hour, say just maybe 8:30 to 9 o'clock before you sleep, just listen to this story.
Okay.
Or even better, because it's great for bonding, is you, the parent, read and record the
Or
story
even give
so
them a
that they
sound.
hear your voice.
Yes.
And then so that you're reading to your child or with your child. So, and that helps really, even, so beyond just understanding the story, this is from mom.
Okay. Do the
love that.
audiobooks
Or from
have the
dad.
same connection as the books as well? Because some people will say, I can't read, but I can listen in my car, I can listen as I jog. Do they have the same effect as well?
For very young children, it is better to have a physical experience of the book. And when you're reading with very young children, you literally point so that the child learns. You read from left to right, and these words refer to the word I'm saying out loud is this one. So you actually point at what you're reading. And oftentimes when they're very young, they need help with the pictures.
Yes.
So that they can visualize what you're saying. So if you have a forest scene, there was a giant in the forest, then you're showing the giant in the forest. They can see the picture of it. Yeah. So for very young children, I would say children under standard 3, then you really want to have them experience that whole thing. But having said that, when we were young, I grew up in the middle of, people don't believe it just because I speak English well, but I grew up in the middle of Duduri.
You've talked about this quite a few
And honestly, because in those days, there were no other children to talk to. There was no one. It is books that educated me.
Okay.
Because my father did not discriminate. Is this meant for adults? Is this meant for children? Is this meant for... He didn't even know those... finance. He didn't know.
Yes.
He was, you're going to start reading the books in this library. And it was a very big from there and Paka there. And I want every book, a book report.
Okay.
Yeah, so you tell us what you liked about it, what you learned about each thing, etc. And he would, every once in a while, he'd check at random.
For
now
the book
explain,
report.
sit there and explain to me why you've
Borrow
written
that
this.
idea.
Yeah, I
like
wanted to
that.
ask you, can parents do these where you give your child, say, one of the books that you've published, then you say, I want a report? Can we do that with
I
children?
think, yeah, you could.
Because the struggle is getting your child off
Your
the
child-
gadget and having
Yeah.
them read. That's the
Yeah.
challenge parents
and
are
getting
having.
them the right books as well, because
Okay.
sometimes if you get either the text or books that maybe the quality is really not good, whether it is from the picture or just the print or just the way the story is told, if the quality is not good, then the child will be bored. It will be like going through a homework or textbook.
Yes.
So if it's a book that's a pleasure to read as well, and then ask for that. Sometimes if you get a really nice book, you find the child is done and they're like, can I get the next one as good?
Okay,
So
okay.
it's just getting them the right books.
Okay.
To read.
Modhan, we'll be talking about whether there's a thing as people who say they were not made to read. We'll be answering that question. For now, let's listen to the song Walk Your Talk. We're also live on Family Radio. And today we have a rare occurrence here. We're talking to two published writers. I feel so honored. I'm still a struggling writer. Okay, I'm kidding. I am up and coming writer. Good. So when you're picking something for your kids, this is the other challenge we have. I had an opportunity at some point in my life to have two young children. One was a boy, one was a girl. The boy loved stories about monsters and, climbing up the trees. And the girl just like the subtle ones without much fuss. So as a parent, how do I know what to pick for my children?
I would say, first of all, read everything before you buy it. Because if your child is under 8 years old, the book won't take you more than 10 minutes to read.
Okay.
You know your child better than anyone else. You know what kind of stories they're interested in. I would love to see more parents at, let's say, textbook center actually browsing through the books to read them, to get a sense of what they're about. The second thing is to accept that boys and girls are different, and there's nothing wrong with that.
Okay.
And there's some girls who love adventure stories, and there's some who prefer princessy type stories, etc.
That's
and
true.
the same thing, by the way, with boys. But that said, there is an acute shortage of stories that address the issues that boys are interested in.
Okay.
So like at Story Moja, one of the things that we've been doing is developing a boys series. So we've got like Baba is building a new road and lots of machines and what have you, in it. We are spending a lot more time developing fantasy fiction because boys really love fantasy fiction.
Okay.
And we've seen from the success of Harry Potter, Animorphs.
Yes, that's true.
That boys really love anything that's sort of magical, sort of adventure, crazy, if you like. Yeah.
Yeah.
And boys also love rude noises, which teachers don't like as much. Those noises coming out of your, mouth, ears, and other places.
Yeah. You've written for children.
Yeah.
How has that helped you even with your own kids to know what they would want to read?
First, actually, I like to say before I submit my book for publishing, I read to them the manuscript, and their reactions, I get the purest reaction from them because they tell it's boring or it's nice, or they remember tomorrow and say, "Oh, read for us again, Tithinda."
Have you gotten it's boring? That's very scary.
Oh yeah,
for a
they'll
writer.
tell you that. They are they will wander off as you read.
Okay.
So when I see that is happening, then I realize I need to change. I need to do this. So writing for them and reading, they are my first critique before I submit it.
Okay.
Because then I know other children will love it. If these ones here can love it.
Okay.
Yeah.
I hear
And
you.
like Modoni says, the boys and girls are different. They are totally different. Sometimes girls, maybe they're also very good with storytelling. Sometimes when you're reading a story to them, they want to give you their own input into the story.
Okay.
And also personalities. You'll find maybe even if it's 3 girls, you put them together, or boys, they have their personality types that are a bit different. So I think as a writer, or as a parent, you have to consider that.
Okay.
Just because your daughter loved this book, the other daughter may not necessarily have the same kind of reaction to it.
Okay.
Yeah.
I hear you. More than you had growing up the opportunity to read books that were way beyond your age. Did that work for or against you?
Very much for. And I
Okay.
encourage, don't buy books according to what you think is the age of the child. Buy books according to their reading ability. And so that you will find children in standard 3 who can read, books that you would think otherwise are meant for standard 6 or standard 7 or whatever. It just means they're ready to move on. And if you keep them at reading standard 3, what you think are standard 3 level books, they get very bored.
Okay.
Very quickly, which is what used to happen to me. So I'd get bored because I'm like, yeah. And then there's, I want to read these other books that my parents would think perhaps are too grown up. Fortunately, they were the type, even when we moved to Nairobi, they were like, okay, every weekend you're just going to spend it at the library.
Okay.
There was no negotiation. Just drop you. My dad is going to work at 7.
That was a
He
lovely
drops you.
childhood.
You wait at KNLS. Community. You just wait there until they open at 8 o'clock. Then you're there until the whole day.
Okay.
Until you are picked up. So it was,
That was awesome.
What she talked about, the KNLS have tried to expand the libraries we have in this country, and the idea is to have more kids going.
Yes.
But when I visited one of them, specifically the one in Buruburu, most people were my age, they are way older. So how can we push the kids into the library as parents?
I think we need to have of course, the libraries have really beautiful books, good books.
Beautiful, yeah.
I think there's a change we need to, I don't know whether it's to change the minds of parents, because I write a magazine for children, or there's a magazine for children where we showcase children's creation, their creative works, their own, compositions or paintings or drawing, their own stories. And I find it's very well received by parents who also love to read.
Okay.
And incidentally, a lot of the international schools in Kenya have a reading culture where they have library time set aside, not even once, maybe every other day. So you find this is well received. But I think our own parents, we have a lot of textbook mind. Passing exam about school, we forget that we need to take them to read the books for them to pass the exam, even to understand what they're doing.
Yeah, it's the parents. If the parents don't encourage children to read, and that's what we're seeing, then the children emulate what they actually see. It's no use a parent going home and saying, read a book, but the parent themselves has never picked up a book. The child has never seen it.
They get home and do this.
So, I mean... so you go to houses where the TV is as big as the wall on the, or whatever, and they've got only 2 books. They have a Chinua Achebe, so they say they have read African books and they have a Bible, and that's it. And they say that's, we're a house that celebrates, reading, but it isn't.
Okay.
I think we can't tell children do what I say, but not what,
I
they
do.
will do what I do.
Yeah.
Okay.
And also leaving it to teachers. Like teachers will just do their work as teachers. But
Can I just say, when Uhuru Kenyatta said, the president said recently that teachers are not foster parents.
That is so
It is such a powerful line.
Yes.
We have to stop teaching, relying on teachers to play a role that we should be playing.
To parents.
Yes.
Yes.
You think?
Yes, it's exactly like we think you'll do the reading in school, or some parents actually will ask teachers, why is my child not reading, or why is my child not so good with reading, and it's just changing that mindset. It's not the teacher's work.
Okay.
The teachers
Do you know what I'm thinking?
Yeah.
Isn't it even easy on the parents on a good Saturday morning to drop your kid off at the library, go catch a few hours of alone time, then come pick them up? It works both ways, right?
Yeah.
As long as it's not seen as punishment, like this is time away from my parent,
Yes.
That I'm dropped here because my mom is too busy or my dad is too busy to see me or is not interested, would rather spend the time with friends or having coffee or whatever it is.
Yes.
As long as the reading is already a part of family life. So, and I think a lot of parents just don't, it's not willful, it's more a lack of appreciation of how powerful books are as a tool to bond within family.
Okay.
There's so many exciting things you can do with your children around books and about stories, So there's a children's club that we run every now and then, but in the club we take a book and we play games with it. So like, for instance, I will challenge parents. I'll say, if you know what an anagram is, it's just taking a word and then rearranging the letters within it to form more words. A word, let's say like sunflower, how many anagrams can you get out of sunflower? So we have a book called The Little Sunflower. And what happens is, invariably, the kids would beat the parents.
Of
the
course.
kids who read, they beat the parents.
Yeah.
So I will ask the audience, how many words do you think you can get out of sunflower? Just take a wild guess. Take a wild guess, Medrin.
23?
No.
Did I aim too high?
Too low.
What?
By far.
Wow.
By far.
70?
Yeah, around that. What? Around that.
Because I was trying to do it in my head and I got to maybe 18 while you were talking. Okay.
No, you will get at least a very, without working too hard, you should get to 50.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah.
Clearly.
And kids will do it.
Yeah.
Kids
Okay.
will do it because
Yes.
kids, will just keep playing around with the words. But it's the kind of thing that you can set a challenge, put a timer, and all of you sit around the family, read the story, especially if you have very young kids, so they're also following the words. And, as you're reading, so they understand which word is sunflower and all that.
Yeah.
Yes.
And then set a timer and say, okay, if they're very young, you can group them, maybe kids against parents, or, the fun stuff they really like.
Okay.
And then give them a big reward.
Okay.
Yeah.
With my kids, I used to give them stars for bringing words home that
Okay.
I've never heard and using them correctly.
So they aim to bring words home.
Yes, so
Okay.
my son, I can still remember he was about maybe 4 or 5 when he came home and said, Mom, you're discombobulating me. And I said, what? I was so shocked. I said, Auntie, what? And he said, yes, you're discombobulating me. You keep increasing. I don't know the homework you're doing, whatever. I can't quite remember but he used it correctly.
Yes.
Because if you got 10 stars, then
Yes.
you got a chocolate or another treat, whatever you wanted.
Okay.
But you had to really impress me. I'm a hard taskmaster. So
Yes.
they were like really working at it.
Okay.
Yeah.
What I like
Awesome.
about that is that you answer the question, how do you get your kids off the screen by making this fun?
Yeah. Yes.
Okay, let's move on from the kids. So recently, there's a website, oceanofpdf.com. It's a favorite among many people. This is Kenya, Africa, globally. And it was brought down after a couple of publishers said, you're wasting our writers' talent by having the books there. And for some, it's even books that were published in January, and they're there by February, which is a whole mess. And I was telling the both of you off air that people on Twitter started attacking the writers. How dare you, ask for this site to be brought down? It's an honor for us to read your work. You should be happy you have more eyeballs. As a writer who's worked hard through several copies of your manuscripts, through editors, through publishers, what do you say?
Like somebody said, if a doctor takes 7 years to do their
Degree.
And that's basic.
Yes, and that's the basic.
Yeah.
So and they love it. If it's a calling, they love to do that. But how will they eat? How will they even treat someone else if we expect them to do this for free? They've taken time, they've put their passion, and it's the same for writers. You do a lot of research. It's a passion, and you want to share this with the world. But how do you even sustain yourself
Okay.
if you do this for free? And I think I don't know if it's the lack of appreciation of how much goes into writing that book. And it's supposed to be, as a writer, when you do it, it's a joy for somebody to enjoy that book.
Yes.
And for them to be able to also reward you and pay for it. It's just maybe they don't value the book itself or what goes into writing that book.
Okay.
I think that's it. It's a question of value because the very same person won't expect to see a movie for free, even the movie that's based on that book.
Even I was thinking about it, even the pirated movies,
Yes.
you pay 50 bob or 100. It's not free.
It's not free, so there is a perception of value. But I think there's also a lack of understanding of what piracy is and what piracy does.
Okay.
So, piracy is unauthorized copying of anybody's work and circulating it, distributing it in any way without having permission from the person who created it.
Okay.
Whether it's the publisher or the original, the origination, the originator of the work. But also, people don't appreciate that writing is a career like any other. It's livelihoods at stake. It's
Yep.
jobs at
It's
stake.
families.
It
Yeah.
is families at stake. As a writer, I still need to feed my my children.
Yep.
I still need to have a home and and contribute, etc. And many writers are like that. And at the moment, it's very hard to make a livelihood as a writer because of piracy.
That
it
is so
really
true.
gets in the way. And then the other thing is with piracy, there's very little control by the person who originated the work. So it can be adulterated. They can change it.
That's
They
the
can
thing.
Yeah.
do
Yeah.
whatever they want with it. It can be read inappropriately by the wrong age groups. By you have no control, and there's no one to complain with.
Okay.
So you get books that are like now. If I publish a book, I know it is properly edited. It is properly they've
The
checked
layout.
the typos. It's laid out professionally, etc. But a lot of these books that I find, honestly, they're so full of errors that I worry about the reader, what the reader is absorbing from
Yeah.
them, and thinking this is appropriate,
Okay.
that this is appropriate writing. But most of all, it's just that feeling of, like now, because Story Moja, we also publish textbooks.
Yes.
And one of the problems is we get a lot of piracy of textbooks. And the trouble with pirated textbooks is the pirate doesn't care what it looks like. He really doesn't, or she really doesn't. So you get some that bits are chopped off, pages are missing.
Or I saw some graphic where they are pointing to the wrong things, and it's a textbook about
And it's a textbook that a child will be
is going to
examined
use.
on.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, I hear that. I'll be asking you the question how we can cap that, but now we need to take a short break, listen to the song Words by Hawk Nelson. The irony that the song is called Words, and we're talking about words. We'll be right. Oh my goodness, let me tell you, I'm having such a fantastic time with these ladies, and they're talking to me. I wish every parent would talk to the two ladies so that you understand how to encourage your kids to read, but that's why we're here today. So we've talked about piracy and how that affects the writer. So what do we do? Some of us are still on page 1 of our book, but what do we do to make sure we don't lose out to the people pirating published work?
I think, I demand to buy the book.
Okay.
Because you lose a lot if you buy the pirate. I think like Muthoni has outlined some of the things that you miss out when you get the book. It could be a copyrighted, it could be photocopied material. Sometimes it's even more expensive
those
than the
ones
original
come when
book.
they're twisted like this. Even the page looks weird.
Yeah, because making a book is a process. It's a whole process, in even the layout.
Okay.
And the pleasure of reading that book, it's how it's been laid out, how the graphics, everything around the process of making the book into something readable. So you find as a reader, then you lose a lot if you don't get the right book.
Okay.
And sometimes it's even more expensive when you get the pirated
one, and they don't last, I can guarantee you. I once bought one and I didn't know it was, after a month, it's nothing because it's been bound so badly. Okay.
But I think the real protection comes from the consumer. If the consumer makes a decision based on their understanding of this is somebody's livelihood you're denying.
Yes.
Why would you want to do that?
Okay.
This is an industry that you're killing, an industry that provides employment, because if you think about, I run a publishing house. We employ 60 people. Where would they be?
To be paid.
Yeah, who need to be paid every month. Where would they be if really all the work we produced was just distributed, completely free of charge?
Okay.
And then think about it even bigger than that. At the moment, there's a huge debate going on in the USA about guns that you can copy on 3D. You can copy it literally on a photocopier, right? So even if it weren't guns, which are very emotive, anything, let's say it's a cup like this or whatever that you can copy, should people then do it because it's free?
No.
Or should we say that if you do that, then what work do we give people, industry? There's nobody, if there's no reward for creating,
then why do it?
So why do it? So I think you're killing the industry. Who will be encouraged to write books if indeed there is no income or anything that's going to come out of it?
Okay.
As it is, I think there's a challenge around the poor economics of books. I think limits the quality of the books say, for instance, in Kenya. I actually think we would have higher quality books if it was more competitive, if people saw that you can really make money from books. Just in the same way like musicians are making money from music. So you get some, some good of the music coming out of it. It's so good coming out of Kenya. It's so good. It's world standard. But the writing is not at that level, I don't think, at least most of it. Because it's the economics of it are not attractive enough.
Yeah, it's actually a very intensive process to write, even as a writer, to just to do the research, to put in a lot of those artistic things that you need to put into a book to make it interesting. So when you put all that and you get nothing and you spend time doing it,
I don't think people, maybe we should do something. You know how we have TV shows like behind the scenes? Let's do that with writing. Like behind the pen.
I love it.
And let people see the process of writing.
Sometimes
in fact, we say
takes
writing
years.
is rewriting.
It's
you write, then you rewrite.
Yes.
Then you
You
rewrite
edit,
again, then you
then you
rewrite.
write.
And then you send it in and guess what? You start all over
You
again.
start all over. Send it to the publisher, it comes in red, you read it. It's a lot of work, and so getting no reward out of that. First, actually, then we don't have any more writers, much as they have their stories, and everybody has an amazing story to tell. But then sometimes the time that you need to put in
And the
you
skill.
get no reward, and the skill.
Let's
you
not
find,
underestimate the lack of sort of narrative skill. So you
Yeah.
get people who have fantastic stories, but
Yeah.
when they land in our office, we're like, oh dear, the way it's been put together,
Yeah.
the language that's used, you can tell that this person does not read enough or has not read enough
Okay.
or has not mastered the language enough. So that's getting in the way of bringing out the story.
Yeah.
Okay.
So, and that's a real challenge we've got. And
Okay.
that's, in fact, I run an online writing course because of that.
Okay. I was going to ask you, both of you, you're a columnist, you have this column. Again, congratulations. The fact that you have an article every week. Thank you, Jesus. It's no joke. But obviously, you make money out of it. Would you tell somebody who believes the way Modhan is saying they have a story within them, would you encourage them to be a writer?
I would say writing is an art of storytelling.
Okay.
You know, so if you do have a story, of course, tell it whichever way you tell it. So if you want to tell it in writing, then of course, to be a good writer, you have to read a lot.
A lot.
A lot.
Okay.
I say I love reading, actually even more than the writing, because it's the only way that now I get to be able to write something decent enough for people to read and enjoy.
Okay.
Yeah, so if you can write, yes. What happens is, like Modoni says, a lot of people, everybody has amazing stories within them. Then you find sometimes then as a writer, you have to help them tell the story the right way.
Yes.
That much as you see there's a story somewhere in all that manuscript that you have received, then sometimes you have to sit down and bring out that story.
And pull it out.
Pull
Yeah,
it out.
that's the toughest part. Okay.
But everybody should be able to tell their story. And I know there's a lot of space right now, platforms,
Yes.
online, blog, everything to tell these stories. Though sometimes you read a blog and you think, this story could come out better. There's so much.
Please don't read my blog, please. Karemi, stay away from my
I
blog. Modani, how do you get this skill so that you get to a point where you can actually monetize your craft?
Well, I think writing, like any other profession, if you wanted to be a teacher, you would go through a course. If
Yes.
you wanted to be an engineer, definitely, etc. And I find that there's a lot of material available for writers to learn from.
Yes.
There are many books about writing, etc. There's now a lot of YouTube and other places in which you can get information about writing. But I also run an online writing course specifically for East African writers, because I think our stories desperately need to be told in ways that we can connect, you know, where we really feel we identify, we see, we're not writing about almond eyes and blushing Nyambura and, you know, things like that. She turned pink, Elfinia, Sijui, you know, Haiti.
You have really seen
which
it all, right?
I've seen it all. And it's because we are not seeing what's in front of us, you know. We are writing through this lens that the teacher gave us a tick when we said that we are selling something like hotcakes. And I'm saying, what are hotcakes? You know, hot mandazi.
Or hot guache. We know what guache does
So
to
why
you.
aren't we writing what we see, what
Yeah.
we experience, how we experience it? It is
Okay.
just, it's even more valuable. And it helps children understand you don't have to be European. You don't have to run away to another country to live a good life.
Yeah.
Our life is just as funny, as interesting. I was very interested in this film, you know, Wakanda Forever.
Wakanda Forever.
Black Panther,
Yes.
etc. Because it's, you know, really celebrated, you know, sort of African history, the Dahomey women warriors and all that. But I kept thinking, you know, why does it have to be told by the West in order for us to see the value in it?
Imagine that.
If we really dug into our cultures, we could tell those stories in modern, interesting, captivating ways that everybody's like, my goodness, this is amazing. I want
Like
to
Simba
hear it.
as well. Simba the movie.
Yeah.
There you go.
And I think that's what Chimamanda has done, but then we could talk
Yes.
about her for 3 hours.
Yes.
We have about 2-3 minutes. Maybe a last word to someone who's looking at this as a career. They want to start. They have no idea where to begin. What do you tell them?
Read a lot, learn the craft of writing. You also have to learn. You know, everybody wants to write, but read a lot because it broadens your understanding of what writing styles, what other good, read quality books as well.
Yeah.
And also learn how to write. Enroll to the online class and, you know, just do some basic training on writing itself, even as you read widely. Yeah.
Modoni, as they come to your class, what are you telling them?
I'll definitely say join the Story Moche online class, and you can, and it starts on Monday, so you're in great,
It's called
great
a shameless
timing.
plug in there.
But it's amazing.
Yes.
But on a more general note, I'll echo what Karemi has said. You know, read. You can't be a writer unless you read a lot, and
Okay.
appreciate that. But also discuss what you read. Make it a social venture, because it really encourages you to read a lot more, but also trains you to seek insight in what you read. So you don't read it in the way that you would read a textbook, just dryly.
Yeah.
You actually are engaging with the work, reflecting on it, really enjoying the juiciness of it, you know,
Yeah.
etc.
Okay. Ladies, thank you so much.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Let me tell you, I feel so clever now. I've been in the presence of greatness. Ladies, we thank you for coming. Hope if you're a parent, you've learned something. If you have a young child, train them how to read. As Modoni and Karemi say, even as they're in there, just read to them. They'll get used to the words. Thank you so much for watching the show. Hope you've learned something. Have a good night. And Jack Tonomusi is coming, and they'll also be in the Remo Africa on TV. Good night.